Wow, you're running around for a really long time.
Are there
That's
just
amazing.
none?
Now you can't find
Are you
anything.
fucking
There we go.
serious?
I was actually
Where was that through any of the dungeon?
here on the D-pad.
God damn it! I'm John.
I'm Dustin.
This is Pokemon Shining Pearl. That was like a legit.
Who
20
said that? You didn't give a name.
I don't know. I'm Inner Focus.
It's CJ.
With
My
a side
God,
of
I haven't
Intimidate.
seen him in a while.
It's the me pad.
Has CJ Felice or Ben made it out here yet?
I think Ben made it out
Ben
here
made
once.
it out here once. Yep.
I
I
think
was there for
CJ.
that.
I think CJ and Felice made it come out here once as well.
Okay.
Halloween,
Halloween.
says Sarah from upstairs.
God, she's always listening.
Hey, how did the,
Disembodied voice from 150 feet away.
having been detached for like better part of half a year?
Yeah.
How did the games turn out?
They are still in progress. I decided to push them back.
I mean, okay, good to know.
There were a lot of complications going into the winter, and it was kind of like, all right, we got two teams that I'm still trying to just get situated in general.
Yeah.
I know that you guys' team was also kind of like, all right, the more soft hands we can go with this, the better for right now. I had another team that was also being a little bit tricky to organize with, and I'm like, man, I can either go completely insane for the next month trying to make this work, or we can just push it back to next summer.
Well, I got to be honest. One of the
probably a
positive
good
things to
call.
come out of almost dying would have been like, oh, shoot, missed it.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking that from me.
Problem is,
God.
to my knowledge, Ben's kidney is okay. His gallbladder went bad a while
Oh my
back.
Yeah, that
God.
was like 7 years ago now.
Yeah, but you know,
We have
Well,
the famous
our,
picture.
our team is famously not super responsive.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, that sucks.
I'm trying to think. I have not been in a hospital for like 20 or so
good
years
for
now.
you.
maybe don't. Why don't you just go ahead and
Oh,
tattoo hubris on your face?
Oh no! I had an asthma attack when I was 9. I passed out on the way to the hospital. That was fun.
That's rough.
And thought I had appendicitis also one time. I don't even remember what it wound up being. I think they were like, "Oh yeah, your appendix is very inflamed." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Yep."
Keep an eye on it.
I was like,
if it gets really bad, then we'll take it
yeah, I was
out.
like, "All right, bye."
What's the American healthcare system?
Oh, it's fucking terrible.
I thought I was
nutshell.
losing. I thought my appendix was about to blow when I was in Italy. And
Nice.
that, as we left Logan, I was like, man, my stomach kind of hurts. And I was like, whatever. I
You
figured
get to
it was
experience the Italian medical system.
No, thankfully. I made the calculation. So we were on a cruise, and I was like,
Oh boy, you got to
Right.
experience the maritime medical system.
no,
that
well,
one blows.
I made the call, and I was like, I'm going to see one more day. But I was like, I was in constant pain.
Yeah.
And I know it's nothing compared to what Dustin just went through, but it was scary
Well, it
enough.
might have been. I mean,
Because I was like, Jesus, I've never quite felt like this. It's constant. I can't eat. I can't seem to poop. I can't sleep. Something's very wrong. And that just lasted for 4 or 5 days.
Ugh.
And then stopped. And I was like, okay.
So
I just
to
mostly
date, you
ruined
have-
the trip, but
you have no idea what was the
no
problem.
idea. I'm very concerned. Or I was very concerned. But it got better. And I've
The
been-
audience can actually hear us getting older.
yeah.
With every
know.
freaking story.
No, you know what though? It's very weird because it happens.
beats the alternative, Dustin.
Obviously, it happens very
What,
slowly, and
getting
you don't notice
exactly.
day to day. But you ever go back and listen to some of our videos from 10 years ago?
Oh god.
Where we are alive and
The-
we care.
The difference in our voices is the one that really gets me. It's like, oh man, we were all that little bit higher pitched, just a
You
wee
think
bit
so?
higher pitch. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
wow.
Oh no. So
I have to go back and listen now.
Yep.
Gee, Rick, I'm so excited to play Pokemon.
I mean, some of that might have also been we were kind of new to the game, and we were
Right,
probably
we were
doing
higher energy.
presentation
We were
voice. Everybody, let's go.
performing a lot more too.
Whereas now we're a little bit more casual, laid back with it.
Did he level?
As a screaming
I didn't
narcissist,
look. I was looking at you two.
I would sometimes go back to some of those old things and watch some of the videos.
Yep.
Every now and again, I might look at the empty video game nerd.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like there's nothing makes my skin crawl more and make me cringe when I know a joke didn't land.
oh no.
So if I'm listening to something, it could be a group one. It's
Yeah.
and I'll say something and there's no response. There's nothing. I'm like, oh my god. And then I start thinking about
The empty video game.
what the poor people who are listening to this have to deal with.
The EVGN ones, it felt so mean.
Ugh.
Because somehow I don't know how we came to the idea where it's okay,
You-
Dustin's going to be on, and we're all just going to sit here, and we're just going to listen because it was fucking hilarious, and we were just desperately holding our laughter in as hard as we could through all of those.
But it's so we'll do those. But the one that really stuck me was Willow. Because I kind of wanted to play that one, but at the same time, we're not committing the time to it.
Yep.
But like I remember,
you wanna get into
I think I
streaming
got like
sometime.
one comment, and it was, "This guy's not even playing it. He's just talking about nothing."
That one dude in the audience was like so ready for finally a Willow Let's Play.
Yeah.
They're like, what is there?
The sound immediately after his comment.
Yeah, not realizing it's a
That's the
fucking
only
inside
voice
joke.
out there.
It's like,
And it's like the truth
yup.
is, I have a pile of Nintendo games, which I think are now in my attic and dead. But like that, I would have loved to have like taken a crack at.
Yup.
Not so much as like an empty video game nerd, but just like
Just to do 'em.
that stuff,
Yeah.
because it was like Legacy of the Wizard, friggin'.
Do you have him? That machine right there can play Nintendo games.
I gotta show you that when we're done with this. The
You have a new
Polymega
thing?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was like
it's fucking
Legacy
sick.
of the Wizard.
Takes forever to
Fester's-
get it, but
Fester's Quest, Willow,
oh, Fester's
Quest.
Good
the Guardian
lord.
Legend.
Yup.
Like, there's like so many classics that like fucking Clash of Demon Head. Like,
Ooh boy.
like there's
Yes.
so many all these games that I either wanted to do like that or in an actual like, and it doesn't even like not even beat it. Just like, hey, look at this game from like
Yeah.
back in the day.
Check out a little bit of this.
And then for some reason, the only cartridges that ever work are like fucking Sesame Street shapes and numbers and
that one was so eerie to me because I had that as a kid,
everyone. Yeah, well,
Sesame
I'm not
Street
gonna
1,
say
2, 3?
everyone, but-
and that's like I used to be legitimately scared, and I used to be nervous playing it because you get something that wrong, you get the boo doo doo doo.
Yeah, there's always that noise. And it's like I think that's what created
and the
my
moon
ang-
is like shaking its head like, oh, you
yeah, the
fucked
fucking
up,
moon's
man.
upset with you. That's how bad you screwed up.
And you get suddenly fucking Grover is just like,
Oh
like,
yeah, he's
it's like
shaking
everyone knows that like the second you get something wrong, just the Reaper is just gonna come out and just
His, like
get
Ernie's
ya.
like, "What are you doing, man?"
Hey man,
That
I got
was a
shapes
square.
here. What are you
Put
fucking
down a
with my
square.
shapes? Look at the shape. Look at the shape, idiot. Look at the shape.
Like,
Is that a
I think
triangle?
You guys played a different version.
Is
of
that a
this
triangle? No,
game.
put it down.
yeah,
It's not a triangle. Put it
it's
down.
giving this like when we screwed up, it gave like this Larry David like monologue
Yeah.
about how terrible you are.
Oh god,
God, I'm
there's
getting
something I love that style of just complete dissonance with old retro shit like that, where it's
Absolutely.
like they were trying to do a thing like, no, you got it wrong, but instead it's like, oh, you got it
You-
wrong. You really
never
got
be
it wrong
nothing.
today.
Case in point, like I know it's not the same thing, but like F-Zero,
Yeah.
I was as a kid, I had to be the best because I was terrified of the car exploding noise.
I was gonna say.
It's like, oh, I have to win. Don't touch the sides. Like freaking out.
I used to like. I was old enough by this point to like not be as affected by it, but thank God I was old enough when I got episode one Racer, because like you crash and it's fucking not real. I forget the kid's name who you know like was Anakin in the first movie, but it's just he'll go ah
And then die.
as his thing explodes completely, and it's like that's a child dying.
I'm not going to spoil it, but I think the first 25 minutes of Final Fantasy 16,
Yeah,
I had that same like,
really.
horrifically horrific.
As
if
a
you know, you
grown-ass
know.
man.
As a
Oh,
grown-ass
no.
man.
Playing-
You guys should see it. Ian can back me up. Like, I made him do it too, and he was like, Jesus Christ.
Holy shit!
So
All right.
check it out. The first like, let's say half hour of
16
Final
is
Fantasy
back
16.
is back in the direction of like traditional fantasy more, right?
It is, but it's more in the gameplay of like 14, 15
Yeah,
Rebirth.
yeah. It's
Is it
more
like, is it like a
yeah.
like,
the DMC Final Fantasy game.
well,
Yeah,
someone
but it's
compared
good.
it to like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. Like
They
that
took a
kind
lot of
Whoa,
influence
okay.
from that, but it's pretty surface
Okay.
comparison.
All right.
I didn't beat it. I
Again,
made
I
it
don't have a
about
system for
a
that,
quarter in.
You know, it's funny. We
Games
were
are
talking.
too much work now.
We were talking before about how Final Fantasy in the early days would alternate, where the odd numbered games were very like job based for the characters and very low on story, whereas the even ones were set classes, very story and character intensive by comparison. Like FF1, it's you have these blank slates, but you choose their class, and that's kind of it.
Yep.
FF2, you don't choose their classes. You have named characters. They go on there's an intrigue thing. One of your party members is betraying you, but not really, and all this other
Is
shit.
that the one where you beat the crap out of yourself so that your stats go up?
Usually.
Yes, in the original, because the system was so busted.
Oh, is that
like,
why I'm self-destructive?
Yeah, you punch each other and it makes your defense better. A Vagrant Story
There-
would go
there
on to do
is
a similar
a-
setup.
There is like a logic to that.
Yeah.
But
FF3 goes back to the Onion Knights and the job system.
Yes.
FF4 goes back to the story, where the classes are built into the characters. FF5 goes back to the more jobby version of things, and then FF6 obviously is very story intensive. They kind of worked their way away from that for 7, 8, and 9, but then they reached a point where they were starting to alternate, where the even numbers were more actual fantasy, and the odd ones were a little bit more technological and like a little bit more modernized.
I don't know. The only reason I'm going to say that I don't think that holds water is because 7 was definitely
the middle one's less so,
and then 8 was like
8 was
kind of similar.
8 was almost contemporary with Final Fantasy bits thrown in. It almost felt like they were trying to play it as like not like Earthbound level, but like what if it was just kind of normal life, but also there was some weird fantasy shit on top of it.
Yeah, your local park also has a T-Rex in it.
Yeah,
yes.
Your school is a spaceship, is a moving fucking castle that can fly around. But like
Squall's moving castle.
Yes, there we go. Squall's moving castle. Oh, there's our title. Shit. But so you eventually get to like 12. 12 is high fantasy. It's one of the Evil East games, so that was always kind of going to be the case.
Yeah.
13 is like a cyberpunk version of 7 in some ways, and like it's a very like weird kind of. It's also still more fantasy, but they definitely lean more into the tech angles with it, especially with the sequels. 14. Is a little bit. I mean, it's the online one, but they lean more into fantasy. 15 is like, all right, road trip. Let's get in our fucking actual
You and
ass
your
car.
boys.
And now 16
Ride
is
in the
going back
car.
into the fantasy thing again.
Yeah.
Don't forget tactics.
I can never forget Tactics. Fucking love.
Every few years, there's an article being like, the guy who directed Tactics would be open to making a new one.
right? Like, please give them the reins on anything.
It would print money.
I like Tactics and Tactics Advance. They're both very different in how they actually function the further you go in, but they're both really entertaining.
Do a bare minimum remake for Tactics and Tactics Advance. There's not like
Yeah.
a great version of those right now that you can get.
There's an
Yeah.
okay one on iOS, I think.
On iOS, yeah,
Yeah.
but like I don't think I can get it on my Switch.
I think there was a
Well, no, you're
Tactics
right.
Advance has never been re-released to my knowledge.
Tactics Advance. I don't think has ever been re-released. There was a sequel on the DS, I want to say, called like A2 or something.
Yeah.
I think I own that.
There was I want to say there's a PSP port of Tactics that was a little upgraded called like Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions
Okay.
So
that
that's
one
the
had,
one.
like,
That's
more-
the one that they ported to
to the iOS. I think.
iOS,
Yeah,
okay.
I know that isn't a great.
I
selling
tried to play it
point.
on iOS, and it felt like everything took too many clicks. But
Yeah,
remember-
there's a lot. Like I didn't like a lot of it because it's better, obviously, with the controller.
Do you remember those days back in like the late 2000s where suddenly every Final Fantasy game had like the international version that everybody wanted to get their hands on? Like Japan had their release, then the US had their release, and then Japan had the international version, which was not the version released overseas. They just called it that. And it was like some crazy souped up version of the game that was not available to anybody else.
I did not know.
You know
that.
what? I'm tired of ignoring this.
Yeah.
And no one's saying it, but I'm going to. I want to see a remaster
Okay.
of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Get it out there. Get that shit out
If
there.
they could make the game good, and I bet they could, it's really not that far away from actually being a decent game. I think they just did not put any real time into it.
Wasn't it actually a Saga game?
I think technically it was a Saga
it's
game.
part of the Saga
I
series.
think there was back in the day where
Sure.
Final Fantasy Saga and it might have been Seiken Densetsu actually or Seiken Densetsu that were all like
one of us can say
they
it.
all rebranded themselves overseas because they were like, oh, but if we call this Final Fantasy Adventure, that'll
Right.
sell more copies. And it's like, sure, man, why not?
I think
Final
that's
Fantasy.
true, because I wouldn't, as a 6-year-old, been like, I want to try Saga Frontier Seiken Densetsu. Not, I wouldn't have been like, what?
I think Final Fantasy Adventure is technically a mana game, and I think Final Fantasy Legend is a Saga game.
That might be what I'm thinking of. Mystic Quest might just be some bullshit then.
Mystic
It could
Quest
be its
was
own thing.
Mystic Quest was
I mean,
their
we
excuse.
all have tiny computers within arm's
It's
reach
true.
that could tell us this fact.
Mystic Quest was their excuse for
People
not
don't
giving
log
us Final
in for
Fantasy.
me to
Mystic Quest
dick
was
around on my phone because I got Tactics open. Never mind.
oh god. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was their excuse to not give us FF5, which is tragic.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, you'll get 4 and you'll get 6, and how about this bullshit game that is like really
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. It is bad in some very specific ways that make it kind of a bummer to
I
play.
mean, admittedly, the open world grinding area where it's like just this cube that you you click on and you have to fight something, not great.
All right.
Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, released as Mystic Quest Legend in PAL regions and as Final Fantasy USA Mystic Quest in Japan,
That did us dirty.
was first released in North America in 1992 and marketed as, quote, simplified role-playing game designed for the entry-level player.
What the fuck?
Don't
The
say
90s
about
were
me.
a crazy time.
Yeah, Japan did not have the Japanese game market did not have a very high opinion of American gaming
like,
capabilities.
It's like how the default for Mega Man 2 was like bitch ass easy.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
it's
it's part of the Final Fantasy series. It's not a spin-off. Well, it's a spin-off. It's not part of some other series.
Final Fantasy USA. I wonder what it got in the like original Japanese gaming magazines in terms of a rating. They were probably like 3 out of 10.
Famitsu's like, all right, you got a 7. Like out of 40.
Once Saturn hits 60, I'm out of here.
Join
He's
the
almost
thrilling
there.
adventure of Gus Hamburger as he fights his way through the Mystic Quest.
Final Fantasy Adventure, known in Japan as Seiken Densetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden, or simply... Wait, so it still had the Final Fantasy name as the spin-off title of the fucking Mana games? What the hell?
I thought opening Wikipedia would clarify things, but it
It
appears
is a
not.
it is a
It's only made it
oh,
worse.
Here's the bonus. And later released in Europe as Mystic Quest.
Oh, man.
Did you
So-
say Mystic Quest or Biscuit Quest?
Biscuit Quest.
I definitely
Dustin,
heard that wrong.
You definitely hear what you want to hear sometimes. I'm hungry, too.
I
What are we
love
gonna do?
that Final Fantasy Mystic Quest being referred to as Mystic Quest Legend,
Oh,
which is
okay,
Yeah.
which is
okay.
a Final Fantasy game without the Final Fantasy name, and then we've got this Mystic Quest,
Yeah, they really-
which is barely related, barely a Final Fantasy game, and is, according to this, the first game in the Mana series. The very
Right.
first one is a Final Fantasy game.
I'm thinking maybe two more fights?
Meanwhile, Final Fantasy Legend, or sorry, the Final Fantasy Legend,
That was the Game Boy one.
yes.
I just played
So was
that.
Final Fantasy Adventure, but originally released in Japan as Makai Toshi Saga. It is the first game in the Saga series.
Makaitoshi Saga.
Oh, I loved that show.
I
when they
fucking-
do those little things, then wind up in the water.
The what?
You know, that game show in Japan where they had to do all those crazy things.
mean-
Oh, the
Ninja
one where they have the
Warrior.
big foam like
Yeah.
shapes thing they have to dive
no,
through.
not
and shit?
that one. The one with the
Oh.
two, like,
That one's fun, though.
I think there were shoguns or something. They'd make the people run through the stuff.
Oh. Yes. Shit. It's. Fuck me. Beat Takeshi is like the main guy for that show.
Yes, exactly.
Takeshi's Castle.
Oh wait, that's not what you said at all, is it?
What?
This is the worst conversation you two have ever
Sorry.
had.
This is the worst episode we've ever had. You've just been
What are you
killing
talking
bats.
about?
I do
It's
find
Squall's Moving Castle.
I do find it very funny that the first Saga game is labeled Final Fantasy, and the first Mana game is labeled Final Fantasy as well.
Yeah, so technically all those games are Final Fantasy spin-offs.
They are technically kind of sorta.
I'm going with
Very
it.
this is what I'm
confusing.
My
talking
headcanon
about.
is now making that gospel.
I gotta make a video out of all that stupid shit at some point.
Did
Yeah,
this
you
joke
should go back
land?
to doing the kind of
I don't
videos
know.
that
Am
were
I
doing
going to
well.
regret it? I
These
will.
actually do pretty well, weirdly enough.
I know. But I miss those documentary ones. You did a good job with those.
Yeah, I really want to. I have a couple in mind that I want to.
I'd be down to
do
help.
get
I
back
liked when we
into.
did them like side by side, with switching
Yeah.
back and forth. You know, like
You know what? I can kind of see why you don't do the couch stuff
Saturn
anymore.
level
Though
60.
looking around this room.
It's a little bit. It's still kind of
just needs a
hairy.
little bit
We gotta
of-
we gotta
little bit of love.
redo the carpet in a chunk of that room, and then stuff can like start to actually settle back in.
Is that a wrap on this episode, Rick?
I don't know. You tell me. Is
I
that a
think
wrap?
that's
on
a
the
wrap
episode?
on this episode. We're gonna come back. We're gonna fight the Elite
thank
Four.
Oh boy, it's gonna be one whole episode probably.
Yeah, I'll
Bye.
do it in one.